What if I told you we're living in the emotional dark ages and most people, especially high achievers, especially creatives, entrepreneurs, have lost their spark and don't even know it? And it's not out there, you have it. But so many of us, in pursuit of more, in pursuit of doing what we think is expected of us, in pursuit of pleasing everybody but ourselves, can fall into these traps of deep misalignment, of joyless, hollow achievement, of burnout, of anhedonia, wherein you're going through the motions, but disconnected from yourself and joyless. And how do we know that these are the emotional dark ages and so many people have lost their spark? Well, the studies show that among creatives and entrepreneurs, folks are struggling with depression, anxiety, all sorts of mental unwellness at staggering rates, and also substance abuse at staggering rates. I don't like that for us. And as somebody who lost his spark a whole bunch on this business journey with the coaching and creative practice, I have learned some keys to coming back to myself that are too good to keep to myself. And so in this video, I want to touch on a lesson I learned from the Wizard of Oz that's timeless and will bring you back to yourself. Some themes of self and not self so that you can better understand what it looks like to be aligned versus misaligned. And I will also explore the 7 notes of self-mastery, which is a synthesis of human design, Enneagram, Ocean's personality test that I collated through years of understanding different self-understanding modalities. So let's start here. You know what is really scary is being the people pleaser, being the high achiever who can look like you have it all together, can tick all the boxes, get the credentials, can be everything to everybody but yourself. And then you stumble into this place where it's like, uh-oh, you usually have a problem. You instantly have a problem because you can end up being really great at passing tests you had no business taking. What does that look like? I know corporate lawyers who burnt out on that path of corporate law because they're really built to coach and consult, to be full-time speakers and creatives. I know people who burnt out at their first iteration of business because they didn't set any boundaries, right? And they overgave and undercharged, right? Maybe you relate with this. I know for myself that I have hit burnout or gotten to the brink of burnout many times in building my coaching practice and being a full-time creative. And I also hit the brink of burnout or burnt out fully many times in my corporate careers. I worked in media, I worked in tech, sales, partnerships, project management for years. And what theme did I notice in those cases and also the other cases of people I've worked with as a coach or people I know who have kind of lost their spark or burnt to a crisp is that it's so easy to go through the motions, disconnected from yourself, disconnected from your heart, disconnected from your intuition, right? And then you wake up and wonder, why does this feel off, right? Why does this feel off? Well, because as I mentioned, we live in the emotional dark ages and we have the tools to come back to ourselves, but we lose sight of them in the scuttle-duddle-duddle to get ahead. And the Wizard of Oz is one of the most beautiful demonstrations of what it looks like to come back to yourself and regain your spark after you feel like you lost it, to heal from burnout after you burnt to a crisp, to start building your business or vision in a way that feels aligned with you. Because it's not enough to just grow. You want to grow in alignment. It's not enough to just make money. You want to make money in a way that's aligned. And I find that when we get the alignment in order, when we get the self-mastery in order, right, that we can earn more, also serve better, and do it in a more sustainable way that doesn't require us to be all depressed or anhedonic, which is the high-functioning depression, or all anxious, or all numbed out and anesthetized with all manner of substances to avoid the fact that we are living out of integrity, out of alignment. So what does the Wizard of Oz teach us? There is this brilliant scene in the Wizard of Oz toward the End of the movie, play, book, whatever you want to call it, where Dorothy has this beautiful conversation with Linda the Good Witch. And Linda's basically like, my G Dorothy, now what did you learn from all this? You went to Oz, from Kansas to Oz, back to Kansas now. You're about to click your heels and go home. And Dorothy says, well, I guess I learned that if I ever go looking for my heart's desire, I won't go looking any further than my own backyard. Because if it wasn't there, I never lost it to begin with. Ooh, that's good. If I ever go looking for my heart's desire, I won't go looking any further than my own backyard, because if it isn't there, I never lost it to begin with. I found that to be true not only for Dorothy, but for all of us. En route to regaining our spark, en route to building our businesses and visions in a way that feels aligned and sustainable. Very important for heart-centered folks who tend to gravitate toward my content. Very important that we're in alignment. I'm going to get to the notes of self-mastery. But first, what did I take that iconic Dorothy quote to mean when I started to feel like I lost my spark? Well, how did I lose my spark? Let's start there. So content creation, it can feel like a slog. And it can feel like you have this pressure to like be this version of yourself or that version of yourself, or be whatever version of you that will be palatable to people, that will make people trust you and respect you and see you in a certain light, that will make them want to work with you or make brands want to hire you. It can feel so easy to shapeshift, especially when you're the achiever, which is how people end up the miserable dentist or the miserable lawyer or the burnt out, overworked, bloated entrepreneur, right? Because you're great at shapeshifting into whatever the context demands of you without considering what actually works for me. What is my heart's desire here? How can I look at my own backyard to see what's good for me? And so I realized 3 things when I tend to stumble into not being myself. I realized that 1, I'm typically trying to be the version of me that I think people want rather than the version of me that I am. For instance, I'm naturally just as serious and introspective as I am unhinged. I have an unhinged sense of humor. I love absurdism. I love sketch comedy. And so I weave that into my exploration of serious matters connected to business, leadership, life, art, all of that. That's going to be me, no matter what. So I realized I get to embrace that. So that's one theme I realized. My second not self theme is when I'm trying to teach something that I haven't fully lived or embodied. And it's never easier to do that, because with AI, we all have access to information, but that doesn't mean we have access to wisdom and insight connected to that information. And so 1L, a lot of folks, myself included, if we aren't careful, take is being like, oh, because I have the information, I know it. No, you don't. You got to go out and live that. You got to go out and integrate it, right? It's been said that art imitates life. The same applies with business and commerce. That to do this stuff at a high level, to do it in an embodied way, right? You need to go out and do it. What you're sharing online, what you're creating, what you're producing in your business should be an offshoot of the interesting problems you have already solved for yourself, the interesting experiments you've already run. And when you do that, you're so much more connected to what you're building. It's awesome. And then the third thing that can get me in big trouble when I'm being my not self is doing what works for others rather than doing what works for me. It's really tempting. You see someone else making a lot of money doing something, and you're like, oh, maybe I should do that too. You see someone else going viral doing something, and you're like, oh, maybe I should do that too. You see someone else buying their second home, working this job, and you're like, maybe I should do that too, without considering, where are my deepest held values? What does alignment look like for me, right? What does self-mastery look like for me? This stuff matters, and it shapes and informs how you get to build what you're building. It shapes and informs how you move through the world in integrity with yourself or out of integrity with yourself. And they don't teach this in school. Most of these internet business bros don't teach this. And that's why I caution people against learning from people who are trying to force you to do all their strategies their way. Because there are infinite ways to build a successful business, coaching, consulting, practice, creative practice, you name it. What people gravitate toward around these parts, what we do more in Final Notice, in terms of increasing our capacity to hold a bigger vision, getting consistent where it counts, building up your business to multiple 4 or 5 figures in revenue per month, right? That there are many ways to do that successfully. And I can't emphasize this enough. I have clients who are launching subscription programs online with large followings because that works for them, right? I have clients who decided they don't really want to do the internet dog and pony show. And so they're building their practice in person. And guess what? They're crushing it because they are great with building relationships and they've joined local organizations and they don't do much social media and they're getting clients. There's no one right way to do this. And if we could let that sink in and embody that truth, it just lets you walk so much lighter. And also let's add on another one while we're at it before we get to the 7 notes of self-mastery, that scale and success look different for everyone. That the clearer you get on your definition of enough, the more you can optimize your life and business for that. I know for myself that I don't need to be a billionaire. I don't need to do that to feel accomplished. I don't even need to make $500 million to feel accomplished, or $100 million. To live comfortably and do our 6 figures and hit 5-figure months is more than a blessing on this path outside of corporate. I know what enough looks like for me. And so I'm not chasing infinity, because it's also true that you can never have enough of what you do not need. Run that back. You will never have enough of what you don't need. And one of the reasons a lot of ambitious folks are so miserable is because we end up chasing more and more of what we don't need. Don't get me started. Let's get into these 7 notes of self-mastery while we're at it. And so, like I said, I want to invite you to consider whatever kind of burnout or whatever kind of sparklessness you're bringing into this conversation. I want you to consider that, again, your heart's desire is no further than your own backyard. I am nobody's guru. I am an e-cousin here, a coach, an encourager to help you access clearer language and better tools to return to the highest expression of you. Because when you align your authenticity with your natural gifts, talents, and abilities in service of the greater good, magic happens, especially when you remember who you are. And you can go through life, school, and not know who you are. And so I looked at human design, Enneagram, Ocean's personality, and came to this understanding of what we call the 7 notes of self-mastery. So I invite you to think of self-mastery like a composition. And in this musical composition, I'm a musician, so we're going to do the music metaphor. There is resonance, and then there's dissonance. And what brought you here was some level of dissonance. Dissonance does not sound good. Dissonance is creepy. Resonance is, okay, beautiful. Resolved chords. 7 notes of self-mastery. We're all playing these notes whether or not we know them. And I found that they go in this order. So the first thing is your meaningful mission. What is your meaningful mission? It's your why. It's the reason you do what you do. And a lot of us don't have that. We just do what's expected of us. We do, again, what we think is going to make money. We do what other people are doing and don't consider what's my meaningful mission. I know mine. I know mine. I'm here for heart-centered visionaries, right? Business owners who are not only here to make a living, but to make a difference, who know there's enough out there for everybody to win, who abide by an ethic of generosity and care. Because I know that the world will look totally different when those sorts of people come into power and fully own their power. Totally different. Okay, 2, what does rewarding process look like for you? We want to get to a point where the process feels like its own reward. So you're not white knuckling through every day. You know that a lot of people wouldn't need to be on all these drugs, all these substances, all these ba 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 ba. Okay, and there's a place for pharma. Some people need it, but not as many people as who use it. Okay? How many people would no longer have to get by on white knuckling in force if they found a way to do the work in a way that aligns with their authenticity and natural rhythm? This is super important, especially for ADHD folks and sensitive folks, right? I realized for myself, I have to give myself permission to be a whole human online in my marketing, in my business, right? Which means I'm gonna wear my backwards hat sometimes. I'm gonna wear my glasses. I'm going to talk about business and leadership and realizing your goals. And I'm also gonna be unhinged because that's me. It's not either or, it's all of them, right? Giving yourself permission to consider what does a rewarding process look like. And there's a worksheet after this, so stick around, and there are also resources down below. 3 is, what is your zone of genius? What are you uniquely gifted to bring that no one else can? Consider, because you have something. The Japanese call this ikigai, what you're good at, what the world needs, what they pay for. What is your unique zone of genius? If you don't know, have Claude interview you. If you don't know, ask a few friends. I bet you know. You have a hunch. 4 is your it factor. What is the it factor? It's what makes you inherently different, even a little polarizing, okay? This is honestly what will make you 5x, 10x more magnetic. It's most people think XYZ when really ZYX. Most people in my field subscribe to this. I subscribe to that, right? It's your eccentricities. It's your quirky interests, provided they're not weird, dangerous, lethal. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, your it factor is going to inherently polarize, not because you're trying to be problematic, but what does that look like? And again, you can plug in around these parts if you need support uncovering that. That's just a little bit of what we do in the first phase of Final Notice when we explore the root work of helping you to build your business, your vision in a way that's aligned with your authenticity. Okay, 5 is, what is your natural operating system? This is, how are you wired to do your best work? Huh? For instance here, are you more introverted? Are you more extroverted? Do you need a certain environment to thrive? Big city, rural? Do you need a co-working membership? Do you need a co-founder? Do you need a community? These are important questions to ask, and they're specific to you. The business bros, the Hormozis of the world are not talking about this because a lot of them are not connected to their heart. Don't get me started on that because I won't stop. We live in a hyper left brain world, hyper logical, that disconnects us from all the other parts of us that are so much more integral to finding success in alignment with our authenticity, in alignment with our highest good. And it really ruffles my feathers, which is why I won't shut up about alignment and self-mastery, especially for heart-centered souls. 6 is, what is your self versus your not self theme? I touched on this earlier, so I won't get into it too much. But you have an authenticity radar. What is you, and what does the performance look like? I have to regularly return to this question because it's so tempting. It's so tempting to do a bad impression or an okay impression of other people rather than doubling down on the best parts of you. But whenever you do that, you get yourself in big trouble. Ask me how I know. It just feels horrible. It feels horrible. So we got to get you back to you. What is your self versus not self theme? And finally, what is your standard of excellence? What is standard of excellence? This is the bar you are holding yourself to. Financially, ethically, professionally, in terms of lifestyle, in terms of the impact you make, in terms of the company you keep as you climb. These are your standards of excellence. And when you're in integrity with them, you're like, okay, cool. When you're not, the byproduct is going to be anger, sadness. It's going to be a little bit of resentment when you see other people winning because it's shining a light on where you're not fully expressed, right? I realized for myself, I had to get angry. Anger is so instructive. Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way talks about how anger is not meant to be acted out. It's meant to be acted on. And what does that mean? Well, sometimes in order to make necessary changes in your life, you got to get mad. Okay? You got to get P.O. Whether it's the breakup, the divorce, never again. You're going to glow all the way up. Whether it's a job that just so disrespectfully discharged you, or has been underpaying you all these years, or not giving you the promotion you deserved, you got to get mad. Whether it's the fact that you know you are too gifted to under-earn, you got to get mad. Whether it's the fact that you have clients, but you want better clients, or you want different opportunities, and you are sick and tired of accepting what is below your standard, whatever it is for you, sometimes you got to get mad to get in alignment with your standard of excellence. And we don't like to talk about how anger is not only instructive, but anger creates the activation energy we need to make necessary changes that are long overdue. And the powers that be want to shame us, especially black, brown, marginalized woman folk, out of feeling our anger. Because if we fully felt it, rather than trying to repress it, but acted on it constructively, oh, we'd own our power. Oh, we'd make things better. Oh, we would not tolerate that race, gender, wage gap. Now we wouldn't. Like we would start to really tear it up in the best way. We would start to be out here making offers. We would start to be out here starting the businesses, because we know that creative endeavors in entrepreneurship are the greatest vehicles for wealth building. There are stats on this. We would stand in our power. So maybe you need to get mad, okay? Here are more details on the 7 notes of self-mastery. Questions you can ask, and I'll include a download of this below so that you can access it. It's a capacity series. I encourage you to download it and you can dive deeper. The key in all this is activating alignment to build your business or your vision from a place of deep self-knowledge and authenticity. The more you do that, the less you burn out. The more you do that, the more you make the money you want on terms that work for you. The more you do that, the less prone you are to look over your shoulder to the left and right at how other people are doing and how you pale in comparison or feel inadequate in reference to their success. And why is that? Because you get better at doing what? Standing on business and minding the business that pays you. I realize that the more I come back to myself, the more I understand myself, the more I master myself as a multi-hyphenate business owner, the more my spark returns. It's the coolest feeling. It's so underrated. And I encourage you to pass this along to a friend, access free resources down below, and we'll talk soon.